At the airport, it's a really emotional thing to see all the people there and, you know, wishing you well. And it's just an emotional thing for me. I really appreciate it.
The emotions start to flow the moment we step off the plane at Reagan National Airport, greeted by a surprise welcome crew. The reasons why each of these veterans is making the trip are personal and unique, just like the reasons they wore the uniform in the first place. Some were drafted.
I was actually drafted, but they asked for volunteers in the Marine Corps, and I volunteered for the Marine Corps. And I just felt like there was a job that needed to be done.
Some volunteered.
I volunteered the second time, but the first time I was drafted.
And why'd you volunteer the second time?
Well, I was in a good place and I was guaranteed to stay there. And California was a nice place to be.
And many re-enlisted. Not one of them told us they served for personal glory or recognition. But at the Korean War Memorial, a surprise. Susan Key was born in South Korea before moving to the United States. She and friends wanted to say thank you.
They never expect anything, and so when they meet somebody that's Korean, thanking them, to me, that's the only right thing. That is the only right response, and yet they're so humbled and so gracious and so thankful to me. And in my mind, they don't need to thank me. They've done everything for me already.
And it certainly left an impression.
I'm still blown away with the Korean people themselves, how much they appreciate what the Marine Corps did.
Anger, grief, catharsis, and healing. The Vietnam Wall stirring countless emotions for Vietnam veterans.
There's some of them that was lost in some of the towns around me, and there's some of them that I went in with. I did watch 5 soldiers drown in the South China Sea, and that was tough to take.
Vaughn Bright came here several years ago as a guest.
Last time just tore me up. This time here, just they did the same thing. I don't know what. You know, it just. I helped these guys. I carried them out. They were in my squad over there, and it's just something that it burned into my head, and I'll never forget.
Now he returns often as a guardian.
I'm going to keep bringing as many vets back as I can until I can't do it anymore. Helping another veteran maybe have some closure.
Mr. Bright was paired with David Heineman on our trip. Mr. Heineman entered the service with a hometown friend.
He got killed jumping out of the helicopter, so it was very, just made me sick, you know, because I wanted to be able to go home and be at his funeral and all that stuff.
Mr. Heineman had long waited to come to Washington and visit the wall and find that name that means so much. Jerry Liebenstein is another of the 45 Vietnam veterans on our trip.
We spent a lot of time together, and it was in the 1968 Tet Offensive that he was killed.
He too sees more than just names.
I still see him and hear his voice. He was a good musician from New York. Played guitar, and he would treat us to folk songs, kept our hearts alive.
Carl Bryant earned a Purple Heart for his service, but says the emotional wounds of the war are often equally devastating.
Means finding people that I miss, people that I went to school with, and finally getting a chance to see that they're memorialized. It's gut-wrenching, to say the least.
It's Mr. Bryant's first trip to Washington. He says it's been easier to cope not having to see the memorial.
A lot more not bothering me than you might think, because I wasn't here to see it. I wasn't here to see things like this statue here, but more especially this wall.
It's complicated, but he's ultimately grateful to be here.
It's a hard experience to deal with. It's not understandable to a lot of people if they weren't there, but it's tough.
But at the Vietnam Memorial, the healing starts for many with veterans helping veterans.
This thing in life, if I can help him in any way, if this is going to be hard for him, I'm going to help him all I can.
Hundreds of people waiting through the night to welcome the heroes home.
I didn't realize this was going to happen. No, this is pretty amazing.
Wonderful, more than I expected.
Men, women, and children of every age and fellow veterans who've made the trip before.
I come out here all the time, but this time I'm in it. And it's just really humbling, and it's a good feeling for a Vietnam vet to get to come home to this.
They come once, they tell their friends you got to go to this, and they are committed to stay because they know they're waiting for the veterans.
What emotions are going through your head right now?
Joy.
There was nothing like this when I came home. This is way beyond anything you can think of.